Hello, my name is Daniel, or as the title would state, Ghost Guy Daniel. Now this is my brand new podcast. I'm very excited to do this. It came from the idea of just wanting more ghost stories. Things have been very quiet. As you know, there are strange things going on in the world today, and I'm sure you've heard enough of it, so I won't mention it in detail. But because of this, I haven't heard a lot of ghost stories. We haven't been doing too many tours. We've still been doing Niagara on the Lake, our ghost walk out there, and downtown Hamilton when it was warmer, just because it's outdoors and many methods and standards can be put into place to keep everybody safe. But it's not the same feel. And missing these ghost stories had led me to this. Now, I am not one for preparation. If anybody knows me personally, they'll realize that I don't like taking too much time. I don't like cookie cutter stories. Like when we go out and tell the stories, I like the connection with the audience and interacting with them. Although I can't do that yet here. Eventually the podcast will change into something like that. But for now, I just want to talk. I just want to talk about ghost stories, not put too much preparation into it. My vision for this is to create a hub. So this is the idea of not just giving you the standard stuff. I want this to be real, raw, in the moment, free and open, so people can tell their stories. Either they can message me, which I'll give information for that in a bit, or even be interviewed on the show here. That's my goal, getting to the point where I can have an open space and people can come in and they can just talk about ghosts. And is it for the believer? Yes. Is it for the person who's on the fence and they don't know? Yes. Is it for the complete skeptic who doesn't believe in ghosts at all and is only on the side of science? Yes. I want it to be for everyone, because when it comes down to it, no matter what you believe about the world of ghosts, it all comes down to the same thing, that basically we all love a good ghost story. Whether you believe it's fiction or believe it is true, ghost stories are pretty amazing. So putting myself out there without a script, that's the one reason. Basically, it'll become a situation where either you enjoy this, and if you do enjoy it, please do let me know. If not, I'll slowly fade away like the ghosts I swear exist. Either way, it will be a lot of fun. Now, this will be a place for people to share their experiences, but as well, I'm happy to offer any type of advice. Now, I do not, in any sense of the word, consider myself to be a master in the field or an expert in the field. I have experience. I was a paranormal investigator for many years, approximately 1999 to about 2004. And during that time, I had many experiences. I've learned a lot. One of the things I did learn about myself is the fact that I don't have the patience to be a true paranormal investigator. I've said this so many times, but like the stuff you see on the TV shows, it's not how it actually is. In real paranormal investigation, you could be sitting there for days. You could keep coming back to do more investigations and get just the smallest amount of evidence coming through. You really have to have a ton of patience to truly love this and to truly be in this. And I've met people over the years that have that patience and that ability, and I say more power to them. But that's not me. So I am less patient a person. So for that reason, I've had experiences. That was my original point. And I've worked with psychics. I've worked with investigators. I'm happy to give advice. Hopefully in the future, if this takes off, I'll have investigators and psychics who are able to comment through my Facebook page, which again, I'll give the information in a bit, and give their advice to people who are coming through and asking, what do I do if my house is haunted? What do I do if the spirit is restless and causing my family some issues? All the things that normally people might get laughed at. My goal is to not only tell your story, but as well to help out as much as we can. And sometimes it's just a matter of getting the words out so that somebody could come here or give me the story to tell for them. Then they're telling their story, and then what happens is people hear it. It changes the energy of the situation, so you're feeling better about it, and not adding your own negative spin on what might be going on in your house. Now, I know you might be thinking that sounds a little bit flaky, that we're getting into the woo-woo craziness part of ghost investigation. And I'm going to try and step a little bit back from that, because I think some of it's not so woo-woo. Some of it's actually quite real, but a lot of it can be a bit over the top. So I'm going to do my best to avoid that during this podcast. But what I am going to do is I'm going to give a chance for what might be going on in your life to step forward and show it's there. So here's what I want to do. This podcast is about reaching out, and even though I might not have actual guests right now, I like to reach out and maybe possibly give you guys an experience on your end. And I find just talking about the ghosts can sometimes stir things up. So for that reason, what I'm going to do here is when I talk a bit about a subject, I'm going to leave a pause in between. So this part here, if you really want to take an active role, if you have any type of tools, anything that you use in the paranormal for investigation, EMF detectors, parabolic microphones, you can Google this stuff if you're not sure what I'm talking about, divining rods, pendulums, and even the dreaded divination tool itself, the Ouija board. Now, before you use that, I highly recommend look up some information on it. I personally have a booklet out there. It's called How to Safely Use the Ouija Board, I believe. It's on Amazon, very cheap, just a small little booklet. From my own personal experiences, I believe in the use of this divination tool. I think it can be a very effective thing. But if you are listening from this podcast from home, then you've already broken one of the rules. So at that point, it's just use something else. But if you're in a location that's safe for the use of the board, then you could do that as well. Anyway, I'm getting off my main thing. So you have the use of the tools. When I pause for a few seconds in between each section, you can pause it on your end as well to go even longer. Just see if you're getting anything. So I'm talking about ghosts. You're thinking about ghosts. You might have something, a presence in your house. Maybe we'll stir something up. So the use of the tool to try and detect something. Have your cameras and your recorders ready to maybe capture something. And of course, staying open. Now, I talk about this a few times on my ghost tours when I'm leading them. Ghost Guide Daniel, the title of the podcast. I am also a tour guide for the ghost walks. A great way to kind of, interact with people and even get their stories. And I always mention to people, when it comes to investigation and trying to get an experience, there's two sets of mind that you shouldn't have. The first one is to believe too much and hope that something occurs. And the second one is to believe so little that you've closed yourself down. So you've closed yourself down to any possibility of something that happens. Those two far ends of the spectrum will almost ensure that you never have an experience. Now, my personal experience, stuff has only happened to me when I don't expect it. And I've gotten so many nods of the head when I tell this during the tours, in the idea that if you're having a paranormal experience, that you usually don't know it's ghostly until after it's over. Now, this is a wonderful little fact that not a lot of people think about. The human mind is set to rationalize things. So what I had personally, the Hermitage, in my experience, I won't go into too much detail, but just know when it was happening at the beginning, I thought that what I was looking at were real people from the tour. And even though what was being presented in front of me made absolutely no sense, because basically I was looking at two shadows, even though it was a bright moonlit evening, and the fact that it didn't make any sense, but yet my mind created a sense to it. It gave me an illusion that what I was looking at was two people until the experience was over. And I didn't expect any of that to occur, and it gave me the learning that, yes, you don't really realize it's ghostly until it's over. Now, of course, this doesn't include if you come into a room and something has moved around on its own. In that situation, your mind will try to rationalize it, but in a quicker manner. So, like, for example, I had an experience, or not me, but we were doing an investigation, and the woman at the house said that her wedding ring went missing. And she tore up her house looking for it. And nothing. She just assumed it was gone forever. And then 2 days later, in a cabinet that she opened up every single morning to get a teacup for her tea, there her ring was, just hanging on one of the hooks for the teacups. So that's the kind of thing where then you think, oh, maybe I didn't check it. But then afterwards realizing, oh, every single morning I open that thing up. So the mind immediately rationalized it before then realizing it's something ghostly. So I'm getting a little off topic here, but the main point I'm trying to sense is that we're going to try and stir some stuff. So stay open to it. And as well, if you have any tools, even if it's just the recording device during the silent moments, and you can ask questions to the air, see if anything answers to the recording device, or even a camera to see if you get any photos. So pausing between each part, and then feel free to actually pause and go even longer to detect and see what happens. Now, this podcast is kind of on a raw level for me. And as I mentioned, going off of a script a little different. So I was kind of debating with myself on how personal to get with it. And when it comes to my belief in spirits and ghosts, I'm going to go full-fledged with this. But there's another aspect of my being that I wasn't sure if I was going to implement it. And then after some thought, some contemplation, if you will, I realized that the two sides are very connected. Because I have a belief. I believe that there are spirits out there, and then I believe that there are living beings such as ourselves. There's our material world, which vibrates at a certain frequency, and then there's a spirit world, whatever that might be. Maybe, I don't think it's grandma, coming back to talk to you from beyond the dead. Whatever it is, it could be leftover energy. It could be spirits that were never human. It could be anything that's been put forth. Those two sides of the things at different frequencies, but it's all energy. And so the other aspect of my life is the idea of being mindful. So the idea that meditation and mindfulness leads us closer to being spiritual beings. I'm not going to go far into that. I'm not going to turn this into a Buddhist podcast. My goal is only to kind of connect the two sides. So I like the idea of having a foundation for the ghost stories, whether it be from history that supports it or from the link to energy. So for that reason, I might get a little bit on the flaky side when it comes to that. But just know anything I'm talking about, I am a believer in. That I'm not going to talk to you about something just because it's the cool thing to talk about. That anything that I feature here or that I meld into my ghost experiences is my personal belief. And in the end, that's the respect that's going to give. So I will include that personal side to things. So the idea that meditation kind of gives focus to your own spirit energy. So you're connecting yourself to an energy known as ghosts. So let me try and go down this road. Now, in my limited experience, I'm not a psychic in any sense of the word. And I've worked with psychics many times, and the real deal, I am very particular about the psychics I've worked with over the years, and I'm always amazed. And I've realized the more I get into meditation and mindfulness, I realize how much more I understand where they're coming from. Now, the psychics I've met, many of them, they have this natural ability. And that natural ability that they had to read other people's energies and to read the energy around them in a haunted space, it seems more natural now that I'm kind of feeling those things myself. So the more I get into meditation, the more I get into mindfulness and working with chakra energy and so on and so forth, the more I'm feeling the things that I always thought were so mysterious in the past. So I have even more of a connection to those psychics today than I had before, just because I feel like I understand them more. And when it comes down to the idea of ghosts, yes, you can go into a room and you could pick up on an energy of space, but it's very possible that energy could be coming from the living folks as well. So if you go into a house, for example, that had a tragedy in it, many of the most haunted houses in the world, they end up abandoned and demolished because of the fact that nobody wants to live in a place that doesn't feel right. So if you go into a place where the living energy has come together to create a dreaded feeling, then you realize that it might not always be an actual ghostly energy that's causing it. It could be from the history of a location. And this gets back to my point about history being a good foundation for ghosts, which is something I believe in. It's something that I talk about on the Ghost Walks a lot. So for that reason, with being able to read the energy of a room, it's good to also have some physical knowledge to know what's happened in the space. And then from that point, you can go on to the personal experiences that have occurred in a location. So anyway, getting back to my main point again, I'm going off. The idea that meditation gets you more sensitive to these energies that surround you will also get you more sensitive to any ghosts that might be in the space. And I have my own experience for this one. And I kind of smile and laugh. And the reason is I haven't really talked to my wife about this one. So I mentioned it to her, but I didn't say that I would be mentioning it on the very first episode of the podcast here. But you know what? It affected me in a certain way, so I wanted to share. Me and my wife, we meditate pretty much every evening now. And about 2 weeks ago, today, right now, is December 1st, 2020. And about 2 weeks ago, we were meditating for, I don't know, it was about 20-30 minute session. And I don't know, about 15 minutes in, I got that very relaxed feeling, and I'm at the point where I'm not feeling anything at all. My breaths are extremely shallow, and I'm pretty much opened up. There's no anxiety or anything. I just kind of enjoying being in the moment there. And the weirdest, the strangest feeling is in the dining room. So we're inside the living room, and I could feel the dining room on my left-hand side. And it's hard to explain the feeling, but I'm sure you've had it. Like if you're sitting there watching TV and somebody walks into the room, you kind of feel them to be there. You don't even have to look over and not even see them in your peripherals. You just kind of feel like there's a presence there, that something's kind of blocked the light, blocked the air, or whatever. And I felt that. So I'm sitting on the couch meditating, and I could feel something walk by in the dining room. And I didn't mention it to her in the moment. I've since told her, but I was very, very nondescript about what happened. I don't want to scare her. Hopefully she doesn't listen. And I don't want to freak her out because she's kind of scared of this stuff. She knows what I do for a living, of course, but she doesn't really want any part of it. And we happen to live in a historic house. So the house that we're in is about 120 years old. And on the first night I was here, I had an experience where the bathroom door closed by itself. I actually heard it close, and there was nobody out there, obviously. And nothing since. So I don't know if maybe whatever's in the house is kind of holding back. It's nothing bad. I mean, you don't feel any of that restless energy or anxiety or dread or anything. I've had experience with that in the past. It just seems a very calm energy that's in here. So I just think being in that meditative moment put me in the right mindset to feel it as it walked by. And it's probably as much a shock to whatever energy that is that I felt it as me feeling it, that somebody was walking around in the dining room there. But it comes to the idea that meditation and mindfulness is a big part of my life, is a big part of why I do this for a living and why I love ghost stories so much. And it also kind of, I think, puts me in the category of the realism of ghosts and not the stuff that you see in horror movies. Anyway, I'm going to leave it at that for now. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this as my first pause. So remember what I said. You guys can even pause right now and go get your stuff ready if you like. If you have a recording device on your phone even, your phone camera works as well, so everybody pretty much has that. And any type of tools. Feel free to get them ready to kind of just detect the area around you, see if you can capture anything. And when I come back, I'm going to give you some contact information so that you can actually contact me, because I'd love to have anything. If anything happens during the podcast in your house, no matter how creepy or insignificant, I'd love to hear about it. So get ready. 3, 2, 1. Anything happen? I hope so. Anyway, so this is where we come into a big part of this podcast that I think will need some time to build up. Now, I can talk until I'm blue in the face, but if people aren't connecting to what I'm saying, then in the end, this podcast ends up being a waste of time. I'm enjoying it. It's not a waste of time for me, but I don't want it to be a waste of time for you. So my goal for this eventually is to get into the idea that ghosts are real. That's what this section of the podcast is going to be for. Not proving, but showing. Showing that there's stories out there. Showing that things that happen to people. I want people to share their experiences with me, whether it's through a quick email and we just leave it at that, or if somebody wants to come on the podcast and have a conversation with me about their experience, and then we can talk, that's fine too. That's where I'm eventually going to get to. Not just that side of it, but the other side of it is talking to investigators, talking to psychics, talking to people in the field, and just getting an idea. Like, from the beginning, it was all about telling people stories, and I think that's the best way. This technology makes that so wonderful. So then it all comes down to, how do you share? Well, I've opened up some channels here. And by channels, I mean channel. No, I got two. I got two channels. If you guys are on Facebook, this one is wonderful. I have I guess they call it a fan page, although I don't expect anybody to be my fans. It's too much pressure. Just say that you're joined to it. So it's called a fan page. Ghost Guy Daniel is the name of it. So you can search that. And the tag for it, the is Daniel is a ghost, if that matters. But you should be able to find it just through the search, Ghost Guide Daniel. You can message me through there. I will keep an eye on it. Not very often. Maybe once every couple of days I'll head in there and look for messages, so don't expect a quick answer through that. Maybe you might get quicker, though, if you email. So I have an email address. It is ggdaniel, so like Ghost Guide, ggdaniel@ghostwalks.com. So either way, share your experiences. I will read it out on the show, and I'll actually give comments, my own personal comments in it. Don't worry, it'll all be very nice. And then, like I mentioned, in the future, I'd like to have live tellings eventually, and interviews with folks, believers, skeptics. Okay, yeah, that's got to stop for a second on that one. I would absolutely adore that. I am. Nobody's ever seen me happier than during a tour, and then I riff. And during my Niagara on the Lake tour, when I run it, I riff with the crowd. There's a block where there's no stories, and I riff and I ask people, who's believers and who's not sure, and who are the skeptics? And then as skeptics, I was like, dirty skeptics. So it was all good and fun because I kind of like the talk with them. I love talking to skeptics. I want to hear their point of view. especially people who take this seriously. Some people are just like, oh, ghosts aren't real because of science. Well, then I hope I can bring something to the table, and with my experiences, maybe they'll start to come over to my side and say, okay, maybe there is something to this. Then there's the people who are skeptics because if ghosts were real, it would terrify them. And for that reason, they don't want to believe in it. And for that, I don't want to ruin their lives with my experiences. First off, I don't know why they're on a ghost walk. Maybe to scare themselves. I understand that. I love that too. But I try not to push too hard with that. But then the final skeptic is the one that actually takes an active role in being a skeptic. And there is nothing wrong with that at all. If anything, I've always approached this from a skeptical point of view. I'm very critical about things that have natural phenomenon associated with it. Like if you love orb photos, do not talk to me about orb photos unless there's a good story behind it. But certain things that just are a little bit too over the top, I'll always push away. So for that reason, I'm kind of a skeptical point of view myself. But the experiences I've had have made me a believer too. So for that reason, though, I'm looking forward to having skeptics on the podcast. In the future, bring them in. We have a wonderful conversation. That's it. Anybody out there who loves drama, wrong place to come. There's not going to be any breakdown brawls. No, we're not going to take this to the octagon. It's just going to be a lively discussion, back and forth, questions for each other, and see where we go with it. Because, like I said, I've had experience, but I don't consider myself an expert because there's always new things to learn, new stories and angles that I never heard of in the past on ghosts and skepticism in general. Now, the duration of this podcast always going to be up in the air. I'm not looking to push things and add information that's unneeded or try and bore you. I want this to be entertaining. So for that reason, it's going to come down to being very raw. Obviously, this third podcast is not going to be extremely long because I don't have any guests. I have nothing to really push into it. Although we'll see how far we go on the next segment, which is going to be reading some paranormal related news. Just something I always love from different angles, but we'll get to that. But just so you know, it's not only about your personal experiences. I also want to talk about my own. And I've kind of done a little bit in the podcast so far. But I thought I'd feature a personal experience from my own life for as long as that is possible, as long as I don't run out, because I don't want to repeat myself. But here's an interesting one. Now, what this taught me was how it is possible for there to be conscious spirit energy. Now, I'm still not sure. I'm going to approach this carefully. I'm still not 100% sure how true that statement is, because 99% of the ghost stories I've heard over the years usually can be explained away as residual, meaning that something in life created an impression on the space, and that it's just leftover energy that is repeating, and that if you're sensitive to it, that you can pick up on it. That's residual. So a conscious energy is the idea that it is actual ghost there that is aware of your presence and that it has the ability to communicate with you on whatever level that it does that. So this experience kind of taught me that is possible. So it's going back to my paranormal days as an investigator. I don't remember the year. It was in the early 2000s. And we had an investigation that we were set to do at a house in Smithville. Now, it was an older house from the 1800s, a beautiful old house. And the family had the hauntings in there. I touched on it. It was actually their experience with the woman losing her wedding ring, finding it on the teacup hook. That was at the same house. Now, this one here, though, had to do with their son. So their son, they would hear their son talking in his bedroom at night. And when they would go inside the room, he wouldn't be in bed. They said he would be sitting on the floor in front of his closed closet door. So he's on the outside of the closet. and it's like he's having a conversation with something that's on the other side of the closed door. So they ask him, "Oh, who are you talking to?" And he always said it was something named Prickles. Now, when they asked him to describe Prickles, he basically described what you might think of as a Muppet. Nothing terrifying, although I think it sounds terrifying, but he thought it was cute. Is this like little monster thing? I don't remember too many details, but I do remember that he said he had these kind of like soft spikes sticking out of his face and head. So Prickles, he would have conversations with Prickles often. And when we went in to do the investigation, now myself and my partner at the time, we knew all the stories. We knew the history, we knew about Prickles. And the psychics we went in with, Kate and Michelle, they didn't. So they went in cold. And I believe it was Michelle, forgive me Kate if it was you, but I'm pretty sure it was Michelle that was the one who picked up on the ghost in the little boy's bedroom. So here's the history coming into play. Because there was another little boy who lived in that house, supposedly in the same bedroom, and this little boy died of something called smallpox. So that was the plague of the day, terrible plague, and it was a horrible way to die. And it is said that the little boy was kind of stuck in the room at one of his worst moments. Not to say that the ghost is feeling any pain, but just that the way he looked would have been quite scary. So you see horror movies, the ghosts never look that good. And maybe one of the reasons why is they were sick when they died, and they look like that point when they were sick, or whatever level of sickness that they had. So if this boy, who we didn't get a name for, if this boy appeared to the living boy, the son, as how he looked when he was very sick, it would have probably terrified the son. And the son then would refuse to have talked and played with the ghost boy. So it is said, and remember, this is Michelle coming up with this stuff without knowing that the little boy had been talking to something in the closet. It is said that the ghost boy was purposely showing himself as a cute Muppet-like character, so not to scare the son and not to be left alone. He wanted that interaction. So that is a great story, and hopefully you can see my point in the idea that if the ghost boy was conscious enough to know that his appearance would scare the son, then that argument for conscious energy ghosts kind of becomes valid. So of course you have to believe the story. And again, there was no reason for this family to tell us that experience. I mean, they weren't looking for fame. If anything, they were worried and just wanted their son to be left alone, or at least to know that he was okay. And I think Michelle or Kate gave that knowledge to them. Okay, so after a couple of interesting ghost stories there, maybe we stirred something up. Who knows? But I'm going to pause here again for a few more seconds. So, I really hope something happened for you. I have selfish reasons for that. I just want people to message me with ghostly stuff. I want you to tell me that your dog was levitating off the floor. Not hurt, of course, just levitating and floating by your face, and you got it all on camera. Telling you, I would actually take that and I would split the reward money with you. I think there's like skeptics out there who offer like massive rewards for any proof that the paranormal is real. Of course, they're going to say it's CGI effects, but at least we'll know it's real. And who knows? Maybe we'll trap them and they'll give us the money and we'll split it 50-50. All right. It's your experience. 60-40. 60 for you, 40 for me. Sound good? Anyway, moving on. Okay, so this segment here, I don't know how well this is going to work. I don't know if you're going to like hearing my voice for so long just reading you stuff. We'll see. Maybe you would rather have me kind of riff. We'll see. I'm learning at the same time that you're learning. But this is kind of a point. I'm going to track down some paranormal related news stories from around the world. And anything that I find kind of gives me a little bit of interest. And I'm going to read them out. As I go, I'll give a few comments. If there's anything that you want to share with me afterwards, I will remind you the way to contact me. Either through Facebook, you're going to search Ghost Guy Daniel. It's a fan page, and you can message me through that. Or through email, you can email me at ggdaniel@ghostwalks.com. GG like Ghost Guide. ggdaniel@ghostwalks.com. So, first article I have here. Top 10 haunted houses in fiction. I am a huge reader. I think a lot of people, anybody who's into a ghost story, usually also loves spooky books. Huge fan of Stephen King, although, here, let me check. No, there's no... well, that is a grave error. There's no locations from Stephen King novels. I think that's a huge misstep by this author, Claire Barker. So this is off of the Guardian.com. I don't know too much more about the Guardian, but it is a Claire Barker as the author. So, top 10 haunted houses in fiction. Everyone needs a home, and ghosts are no exception. The fact is, they're going to need it for a lot longer than most. Whether it's a creepy castle or a gloomy graveyard, the ideal home is dead important. See what she did there? When you're a spook. Here are 10 of my favorites. First one, I think everybody knows, especially if you're a big kid at heart, such as myself. Number one is Hogwarts Castle from the Harry Potter series by J.K. Rowling. And Claire says, on the Pottermore website, J.K. Rowling describes Hogwarts as the most heavily haunted dwelling place in Britain. From Peeves to nearly headless Nick, the castle harbors some truly delicious spirits. Young wizards and witches may come and go, but the resident ghosts are a permanent fixture. Hogwarts is an institution where ghosts are not simply tolerated, they are part of the furniture. That's true. Yeah, they actually, or they end up in the fireplace or something. Oh wait, no, he wasn't a ghost yet. Sorry. I'm not going to say more. I don't want to give any spoilers. But yeah, no, I'm always amazed at the Harry Potter series. I love it. Actually, I wish that's how ghosts were. I want them to walk in the room and say hi to me, or like nearly headless Nick would like lift his head up off of his severed neck. I can't believe that's a kids movie, and say hello. I mean, that's the world I want to live in, but sadly, our ghosts are more subtle than that. Number 2, all of the haunted houses in Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Dooby-Doo, where are you? Well, probably quaking in a haunted house somewhere. I spent many hours watching Scooby inadvisably enter spooky old shacks and dodgy-looking factories, only to squeal with delight as ghouls loomed and caretakers are unmasked. Creaky floorboards, cobwebs, chains, you name it. The haunted houses in Scooby-Doo are printed upon my visual memory as Technicolor, as 70s strawberry angel delight. I don't know what that means. But yeah, no, I was a huge fan of Scooby-Doo as a kid too, and I very quickly, I saw those haunted houses as being like true haunted houses when I was a kid. That's what I thought a haunted house was, and to this day, they're the ones, like if you see them in some of the older fashion video games and stuff, like that's the kind of stuff that I loved, is either a haunted house or a spooky castle, something along those lines. Of course, nowadays I realize they don't always look like that, but the beauty is some of them actually do. I'm talking about the abandoned ones. Number 3 from Claire Barker here. Helton Hall in Dial a Ghost by Eva Ibbotson. Please excuse me if I get any of this stuff wrong. I am actually reading this article for the first time with you. Claire goes on. She says, what if you are a home-loving spirit, but you have lost the house you were supposed to haunt? A family of 5, the Wilkinsons, die after the Second World War bomb falls on their house. Oh, jeez. Now of no fixed abode, their ghosts meet 2 elderly sisters who run a charity for displaced ghosts. It gives me a feel like Beetlejuice or something. Before long, the kindly Wilkinsons are relocated to Helton Hall, but there's been something of a mix-up. A wittish, ghoulish comedy of errors. Okay, so I'm going to actually personally look this up, so you can look it up. It's called Dial a Ghost by Eva Ibbotson. I really don't have anything more to say about that. Number 4, Whipstaff Manor in Casper, the Friendly Ghost. Casper's one of my absolute favorites. Again, like Harry Potter, if ghosts were like that, it all comes down to how friendly they are. Casper was the quintessential one. Everybody wants a friend like him. So Claire says, Whipstaff Manor is most impressive. It has spiral staircases, looming corridors, and a collection of its very own obnoxious ghosts named Fatso, Stretch, and Stinky. Of course, Casper lives here too, but is rather at odds with the others, opting for a less confrontational approach. This friendly little ghost has been around since the 1930s. Oh, I didn't realize it had been that long. Starting as a book, oh, that's why, and then graduating to cartoons and films, standing the test of time and proving that hauntings don't have to be horrid. It is true. It goes a long way. I think the contrast of having a friendly ghost as opposed to everybody thinking that they're angry and restless and mean, that contrast gave it staying power. So I know it started out as a book, and even not too long ago, I'm talking maybe, was it like 10, 15 years ago, there was a live action movie, and I'm sure there's probably still some type of comic book or kids cartoon and book that still exists today. So Casper, definitely the most iconic ghost. Oh, and on another side thought is that Casper is usually the ghost of choice for anybody who's making fun of people's ghostly experiences. So many times on the tours, it's like I tell a story and there's like, was it Casper? I'm like, no, please take this serious. I need to be taken seriously. But then other times I just laugh it off like I'm doing now. But I digress. Number 5, Green No. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. It's Knowe. Green No in The Children of Green No by Lucy M. Boston. This book is a classic treasure. Cut off from the world by a moat, ancient and mysterious Green No is home to the spirits of the Old No family, their history being as essential part of its fabric. Now I gotta find this out. Give me 1 second here. I'm gonna just search to see how to pronounce this. Green No. Maybe there'll be a pronounce Green No. Is this making good podcasting for everyone? Are you enjoying it? Oh, here we go.
Green No.
Green No.
Green No. Green No.
I think I'm right. If anybody thinks I'm wrong, tell me. Message me through the channels I mentioned. Okay. Essential part of its fabric. Written in 1954. Ooh. It's based on the author's home, a 12th century house in Huntingdonshire. Something I find rather thrilling. That's very cool. I think I'm going to look up this one too. I love old manor houses, and England has some of the best ones. I think some of the greatest ghost stories come from England. The one that stands out in my mind right now is Raynham Hall. Go ahead and look that up. One of the famous ghost stories in history, ghost story and ghost photo, the photo of the brown lady. You can see that's the one that everybody sees with the kind of like the mist, I guess you could call it, shaped like a woman, floating on the main staircase. Yeah, look that up. I'll probably feature it in a future podcast, but good story. Number 6, Ghastly Gorm Hall in Goth Girl by Chris Riddle. Ada Goth lives at haunted Ghastly Gorm Hall, the only child of Lord Goth, who is mad, bad, and dangerous to gnomes. Poor Ada is forced to clump around the house in... Oh, I love clump. Clump's perfect. Around the house in big boots, as her father believes children should be heard and not seen. Wait, isn't it the other way around? Not surprisingly, she is rather lonely. Luckily, the house ghosts from the attic club to a little ghost mouse named Ishmael are a friendly bunch, full of witty literature references and glorious illustrations. It's a stylish gothic jewel. Okay, parents out there, you're looking for something to read your kids, here you go. Goth Girl by Chris Riddle. I'm going to look it up myself. I can't read it. That would hurt my reputation as a tough man. But I can definitely recommend it for the kids out there. It sounds really cool. But anyway, next one, number 7. The Sedgwick Hotel in Ghostbusters. Oh, okay, yeah, this is the one. At the Sedgwick Hotel in New York, the ghosts come as complimentary extras. This is fine until the spirits get out of hand and guests start disappearing. The hotel management are forced to call in the Ghostbusters to clean up the problem. As the exterminators with quotes, first job, it proves to be something of a baptism of fire. Hilariously funny, and it's a roller coaster of sheer 80s joy. If you haven't seen the Ghostbuster movies, you gotta. Actually, I'm curious, is this a real hotel? I'm going to just do a quick Sedgwick Hotel. Ghostbusters Wiki. Oh, okay. So no, it's a fake name. You might be screaming at your podcast device right now. It's like, it's not real, Dan. It's fake. There's a location here. Not all the movie was shot. So it's actually in Los Angeles. They shot it. Ghostbusters. Okay. All right, yeah, they shot it in Los Angeles. Real life location is called the Millennium Biltmore. So if you there's an article here. If you do a search for Sedgwick Hotel, it's at scoutingla.com, and they got pictures of the real hotel in the front and on the inside. So yeah, there you go. Movies are fake, but the Ghostbusters, real. Big part of history. Anyway, real in my mind. So nothing really to say about that. Love the scenes. If you haven't seen it, watch it. Number 8, East End Cottage in The Ghost of Thomas Kemp by Penelope Lively. When James and his family move into an old cottage in the village of Leadsham, Oxfordshire, it appears idyllic. But builders have smashed an old green bottle in the attic, releasing its tricky 17th century occupant. Soon strange things start happening. Noises in the night, flying ornaments, and tea gets poured in the vicar's lap. Not only this, mysterious messages keep appearing from Thos, Kemp Esquire, sorcerer. Convinced that young James is his new apprentice, this badly behaved poltergeist leaves a trail of destruction behind him. This 1973 Carnegie winner is both funny and unsettling. So it sounds interesting. Personally, probably not going to look it up. I don't know. We'll see. I'll check out the reviews. Number 9, Canterville Chase in The Canterville Ghost by Oscar Wilde. Oscar Wilde, very interesting fella. I haven't read too much of his stuff, but maybe I'll check this out. Canterville Chase is haunted by the grumpy spirit of Sir Simon de Canterville. The rambling Gothic pile ticks all the boxes. Black oak paneling. Okay, she's talking about the house. So the house ticks all the boxes. black oak paneling, suits of armor, even a reappearing bloodstain on the floor. Well, that's a classic. I wonder if that came from him. However, when new owners move in, Sir Simon meets his match, as no-nonsense Americans, the Otis family, stubbornly refuse to be scared by Sir Simon's theatrical antics. Wickedly comic and brilliantly observed as ever. I think I might need to check out more Oscar Wilde. And finally, number 10, The Graveyard in the Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. Oh, I've heard of him. The graveyard is not strictly a haunted house, but is definitely a haunted home. In the lexicon of horror, graveyards are usually no-go areas for the living, but the one in Gaiman's book is an exception. Here, baby Bod finds sanctuary between the wings of ghostly Mr. and Mrs. Owens after his family are brutally murdered. He grows up surrounded by its resident ghosts and ghouls within the protection of its boundaries. Darkly beguiling, this graveyard is a haunted home like no other. That sounds very interesting. I might check it out. So again, it's The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. I couldn't possibly read that without mentioning just one final thing with graveyards. I don't know if I have a popular view of it, but I don't think of graveyards as haunted. I think we're scared of them because of our fear of death, but that it's not really haunted because of the fact that there's truly no living energy that ever really touches the grounds, other than people like myself who love going for walks there, because I find cemeteries to be some of the most calm places that you could ever visit. So that is Claire Barker, again, as theguardian.com. The title of the article, if you want to read it yourself, Top 10 Haunted Houses in Fiction. Now, I had a second article, but I wanted to keep this podcast under an hour, and we are approaching that 1 hour mark, so I will keep this for the future. A plug, it is going to be about a paranormal investigator from India. Now, I love this because I don't hear too much from India when it comes to ghost stories, and this guy looks like the real deal, so I will get into him and probably murder his name. So look forward to that in a future podcast. But with saying that, my name is Daniel, Ghost Guy Daniel officially, and it has been my absolute pleasure doing this episode for you. Hopefully you liked it. One final plug to be able to contact me, let me know what you thought. If you want to hear more from me in the future, on Facebook, search Ghost Guy Daniel, and you can message me through there, or you can email me directly at ggdaniel@ghostwalks.com. Thank you so much for listening, everyone, and have a great rest of your day.